She walked through that door every day, but he never tried to open it. He never thought he needed to. Until one day, life fell apart, and all that was left was silence. That door she had always ignored now seemed like her only way out. But it wouldn't open, and the more she pushed, the more anxiety took over. This is the story of the door that never opened. And the day she discovered the problem wasn't the lock. Watch until the end. This story will change the way you face those days when everything seems locked inside. Follow the channel so this message can reach more people trapped in this maze of anxiety and silence. Some people need to understand that some doors only open when the mind is silent. Teresa had lived in that house for years. It was old, silent, full of corners that held memories and dust. But there was one thing that always seemed out of place. A door. There at the end of the hallway. No one used it. No one talked about it. It was just there. A closed door that, for some reason, Teresa never bothered to open. Until one ordinary afternoon during a distracted cleaning session, she stopped in front of it. She felt restless, an uneasiness. It was as if something inside was calling. But when she turned the doorknob, nothing. Locked. Not with a key. Locked as if forgotten by time itself. Teresa tried to force it, pushed, but nothing moved, and that stayed with her. In the days that followed, that door became a silent obsession. Every time she passed through the hallway, she felt her heart race, a tightness in her chest, a feeling of anxiety she couldn't name. It was just a door, but it seemed to carry a weight. Something was inside. Something Teresa had avoided for so long she couldn't even remember why. That night, Teresa suffered from insomnia. She tossed and turned, her thoughts spinning like laundry in a washing machine. It was just a door, but why did it bother her so much? She felt fear, but a fear without a name, without a form. And in the midst of this chaos, a memory, a rainy day when she was still small, being pulled by the arm and hearing screams behind that door. The scene came to her in a flash, short but powerful. Her heart raced. It wasn't just a forgotten door. It was a door that held something her mind had chosen to erase. Teresa sat up in bed, covered up to her neck, trying to control her breathing. Anxiety now has a body. The past. The next day, I walked around the house, unable to focus on anything. The cup trembled in my hand. The clock sounded louder, and every time I passed through the hallway, that pressure in my chest returned. It wasn't about whether to open it or not anymore. It was about what that door was protecting, or hiding. Teresa began to pay attention to the details. The door was different from the others. Older, the wood was worn, and the handle was cold even on hot days. But what was striking was the silence. On the other side, there was no sound, no creaking, no draft. It seemed dead, but something about it made Teresa's mind scream. She tried to distract herself. She played loud music, swept the entire house, cleaned out the closets. But it was as if that door had become the center of the house, like a black hole pulling everything toward it. The fear grew, and with it, the anxiety. Her heart raced, her breath shallow, the constant feeling of alert, all because of a closed door. That's when Teresa realized the door was just a symbol. What tormented her wasn't the door itself, but what she remembered. How many other doors had she left closed inside her own mind? Situations she'd never had the courage to revisit, traumas swept under the rug. This was just the first. That night, Teresa couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, the image of the door appeared. It wasn't just a memory. It was a calling, and she knew. Running away wasn't working anymore. Something inside her called for courage. But courage for what? Not even she knew what lay behind that wood. That's when she remembered a conversation with her grandmother. What we hide in the basement of our minds will eventually come back, and it will come back with a vengeance. Teresa had never paid attention to those phrases, but now it made sense. The door was the basement, and what was inside was old, heavy, forgotten, but still alive. In the morning, she sat in front of the door with a cup of coffee. It wasn't time to open it, not yet, but it was time to stop pretending she wasn't there. This acknowledgement alone was a step, a small movement from someone who decided to face what most would rather lock away forever. Teresa woke up with a start. She got up, walked to the hallway, and stopped in front of the door. This time, no coffee, no excuse. Just her, the latch, and the silence. She took a deep breath, put her hand on the doorknob and tried to turn it. Nothing, stuck as always. But inside, something stirred. It wasn't about forcing the door. It was about allowing herself to try. For the first time, she felt ready to face whatever it was, no matter what was on the other side. The fear was still there, but now it was accompanied by a strange strength, as if she had God by her side. She didn't open it that day, but something opened in her. The movement was small, but it was real, as if heaven had seen it, as if that gesture were a wordless prayer. And maybe it was, because sometimes all God waits for is for you to knock on the door. He takes care of the rest. 2 days later, Teresa received a visitor. It was her next-door neighbor, a lady who rarely went out. She brought a cup of cake and said she had dreamed about Teresa's house. In the dream, a door opened and a bright light came from inside. Teresa froze. She hadn't told anyone about that door. It was then that she understood. It wasn't just a wooden door. It was a symbol, a sign of something inside her that needed to be faced and released. Her neighbor's dream wasn't a coincidence. It was a warning. It was as if God was using everything around her to show her that she wasn't alone in this. Teresa didn't know what to make of that information, but something inside her told her it was close. The anxiety which had always screamed now seemed to watch silently. She began to realize that fear only has power when we pretend it's not there, and that perhaps the door would open when she was ready to hear what was behind it. That night, Teresa knelt on the cold living room floor. She had no more pretty words, no strength to feign faith. She could only say, "God, I don't know what's behind that door, but if it's to free me, show me. Prepare me." And she wept like a child who doesn't know what to ask for, but knows she needs help. As she spoke, something shifted, not outside of her, but inside. For the first time, she didn't ask her anxiety to go away. She simply accepted that it was there, and that perhaps it was a calling, an invitation to courage, a reminder that there are parts of life we only navigate with our knees on the ground and an open heart. The next morning, Teresa didn't rush to the door. She stayed in bed for a while, breathing, for the first time without rushing. Something had changed. She didn't know if the door would open today, tomorrow, or never, but she knew that inside her, a new space was opening, that of surrender. Teresa didn't plan. She didn't mark it on her calendar. Simply, on an ordinary day, she got up, made herself some coffee, and looked at the door. And for the first time, she didn't feel fear or suffocating anxiety. She felt curious. She felt peace. She walked up to it, and without much thought, she turned the doorknob. The door creaked. She struggled, but it gave way. And there, behind her, was no monster, no tragedy, just a pile of old boxes, memories she'd avoided for years, photos, letters, a dress from the day everything changed. It wasn't the end of the world. It was the fresh start she'd been putting off. She sat on the floor and cried, but it was a different kind of crying. It was as if her soul was opening up too. There, in the midst of the chaos, God wasn't judging her. He was with her. He had patiently waited for the moment when she would be ready. And she was. Teresa didn't know where to begin. The room was full of memories, but her heart, that felt lighter. She picked up a random box. I opened it. Photographs from a time she swore she'd forgotten. Some hurt, Others made her smile. But for the first time, she didn't look away. As she sorted through what she wanted to keep and what she needed to let go, she realized something. This tidying wasn't just for the house, it was for her. Each item that went seemed to take with it a piece of the weight she carried in her chest. It was as if God was cleaning along with her, inside and out. In the midst of it all, she found a letter she'd written to God years ago. She asked for help. She asked for directions, and there, with tears in her eyes, she understood. God had never stopped listening. He was just waiting for her to open the door. Because he doesn't force entry. He knocks. And waits. Teresa walked through that door and thought she had all the answers. But upon entering, she realized that what was there wasn't about what she wanted. It was about what she needed. There was no hidden miracle, no secret plan from God. Just an empty room, silent, and full of peace. That's when she understood. Sometimes we insist on opening doors thinking they hold the solution to life. But God doesn't want to give you answers from the outside. He wants to transform you from the inside. It's not about conquering the world. It's about finding rest, even when nothing changes. Teresa left the room. She left the door open, but didn't even look back. She wasn't the same anymore. That anxiety that had kept her from living no longer ruled her, and now she knew. There are doors that God only opens to show what you were looking for outside was already inside you. What if the door you've been trying so hard to open only opens when you stop pushing? What if the silence that scares you is actually God's invitation for you to hear what really matters? You no longer need to live pushing the wrong doors, nor trying to control everything. Maybe God doesn't want to lock you up. Maybe he wants to redirect you. Today you have a choice. Keep insisting on opening it your way, or rest and let him show you the right key. Peace doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. Start applying what you learned in this video. Choose a moment today to quiet your mind, pray truthfully, and ask God, which door do you want me to open? Now reflect, how many doors are you trying to open out of fear? What if God is calling you to another path, but the noise of your anxiety doesn't let you hear it? Follow the channel and turn on notifications. There's still much God wants to show you, and some doors only open when we continue to learn to listen.